Welcome, everyone. My name is Brian Iinuma. Our company is Strategic Systems Group. We are a Los Angeles-based IT consulting firm and experts in enterprise resource planning. I have my colleague, Mr. Peter Moore, here as well. And Peter, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Peter Moore, president of Wild Oak Enterprises in Santa Monica, and we work with CIOs and their senior leadership teams to help them evolve their overall IT operation and business value from a cost center support function to a business enabler and eventually a full strategic partner.
Terrific. All right. Very good. Peter and I have had some conversations about this notion of trapped value recovery. So why don't we start there, Peter? What does that mean?
What it means basically, Brian, is that if you look at any IT group and you come in and analyze how they're currently spending their money and their resources, their time with their people, you'll find out that 80 to 85% of that time and money is spent on running the business.
Sure.
And that's important. I mean, they have systems of record that support the ERP, finance, HR, everything else. It has to be done, but there's very little new value coming from that work. And so if they continue to have only 15 or 20% of their time and money spent on growing the business, it's very hard to be anything other than just a cost center support function.
Sure.
So what the trapped value recovery assessment does is it produces a workshop with the CIO and his or her leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
In that workshop, we ask them to think about their entire inventory of all their systems of record that they have today that are now running their organization, and ask them to really think about them in three ways. Of those systems that you have today, which ones can be modernized from, say, on-premise, on desktop to the cloud and mobile, thereby increasing their value because they increase the number of ways that you can connect with employees or customers. The second question is, do you have duplicate systems of record? So for example, many companies have Zoom and Teams and Slack and Google. They have 4 or 5 different ways of doing virtual meetings. You only need one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's wasted time and money supporting those and having different, licenses to have those utilized. And then finally, the last one is, are there systems of record today in your organization that no one's using? They've been around, they're legacy systems, they've been around for a long time. You're still supporting them. You're still doing upgrades occasionally or bugs fixes to them or whatever, but nobody is using them. Can you in fact eliminate them? And again, get that value, get that time and the money back, which you then can use to invest in new higher value activities.
That's terrific.
So let me switch the dialogue around, Brian, and ask you a question. So when you work with your clients, do you have some examples of how you've helped them address this issue of where they do have duplicate systems and they need to consolidate, or they can eliminate systems that are no longer valuable, or you've helped them modernize it by taking it to the cloud?
Okay, very good. Yes. So let's start with the notion of modernization first. And I think that we have had a number of situations where clients have been on-premises ERP systems, Microsoft Dynamics GP, for example, and had an opportunity or an initiative to get off of on-premises into the cloud. So one case that comes to mind is a regional healthcare company, and they basically were on Dynamics GP first and had hardware and software on premises. They did not want to refresh the hardware. It was just a costly process to do that. And basically the idea was to migrate their ERP systems to a cloud-based SaaS application, Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central in this case. So it was clearly an opportunity for them to do something to save money right away. So clearly a financial gain to be had there. That is a common theme. So we've had a number of other folks do the same thing and essentially get to the point where they have gotten off of on-premises applications into a SaaS platform. You talked about consolidating a little while ago, and we were case in point. So we did have multiple platforms for virtual meetings, also multiple platforms for knowledge management. So similar kind of application. GoToMeeting was eventually supplanted by Teams in our organization. And for a while, we just had them both because we had clients that wanted Teams and we had clients that wanted GoToMeeting. And we even had WebEx at one point because certain clients would only use WebEx for security reasons. So finally, I think we were able to discontinue WebEx and GoToMeeting, and finally everything for us is on Teams, much more helpful. In a knowledge management perspective, we've gone through a number of iterations for it as well. So we did have some things in Confluence for a while. We did have a file server as well for knowledge management. We ended up consolidating those to be more centralized in Teams. So today we use Teams for knowledge management. One of the things that comes to mind for elimination, this happens in our clients from time to time. We also have situations where clients have come off of a legacy system, say an Infor application, running on a Unix machine, which is pretty arcane these days. But the idea behind it was to say, okay, yes, you no longer need the system. You're going to migrate from, say, Infor MK to a system, Deltek CostPoint, which is the corporate standard. You now no longer need this MK system, but you might need it for reporting from time to time. So in truth, we did help them with reporting from the old system for about a period of about 2 years. And then once that 2 years was over, they never looked at it again. So that's a typical case in point, is to say, yes, you might need the old system for a couple of years, and after that, you probably won't need the data. One other thing we did in this case for this migration from MK to Deltek CostPoint was to create a data warehouse from the old system. So it's in the process of doing the migration, we were able to capture all of the data, sales orders, purchase orders, inventory history, and so forth, into a data warehouse. And that's a lot easier to maintain. It's just a SQL database than it is to maintain the old legacy system.
Those are great examples, Brian, and I think it makes the other point that we've talked about in earlier discussions, and that is when you're a leader of an IT group and you're trying to leverage digital technology to the competitive advantage of your organization, you need to understand how you're now deploying your time and your money. And so what we're helping these clients do is look at from a percentage point of view. And we have several examples where we had clients with 60 or 70% of their resources going to running the business. And through doing the kinds of programs we were talking about, we come in and diagnose the problem. You and your team come in and actually have them implement the solution. We can make significant changes in the percentage of time. And so I think it's important that as people who are listening to this podcast is to say, look, if you really want to get something done, not just talk about it. If you want to get it done, you don't have to hire somebody to do it for you. You can hire somebody to help you do it yourselves, and you own it. It's your systems, it's your time, it's your resources. You want to keep talent, and you want to keep talent working on things that grow the business, which is much more fun than just running the business. Although you have to run the business too. We don't want to, walk away from that. But the percentage of time spent doing those two activities can change dramatically. And in doing so, the value that IT brings to the organization exponentially grows. And I think that's a benefit to everyone involved.
Terrific. Yes, some of the percentages that you and I have talked about in a situation for a regional bank, to shift the run the business percentages from 61 to 35 and the grow percentages from 24 to 50. That's remarkable.
Yeah, no, it's a very good example.
Perfect. Alrighty. So I think this might be a good place for us to conclude, and maybe a little bit of a teaser for next time. One of the things that we talked about was once you have identified these cost savings, what is an appropriate way to redeploy?
Well, that's what we call the trap value redeployment process. And we have developed a framework called the Stairway to Heaven. And what it is, it's a sequence of activities that companies have to go through. And the thing I think, Brian, that you and your team can be extremely helpful in the implementation side of this work is, I'll give you an example. Today, companies are spending billions of dollars on artificial intelligence, AI, and they're not getting anything for it because they're not ready to deploy it. And that there are certain stages. So before you can start using systems of intelligence like AI, you have to have gone through and rationalized your systems of record, like we were talking about in the trap value recovery. Then you have to figure out how you develop and deploy systems of engagement. Those are the cloud-based, mobile-based, systems that allow individuals, whether they be employees or customers or whomever, to engage with your organization on their terms, not your terms, in the easy fashion that they want to do it. And so that enables you at that point in time to lay out a very, very disciplined process of different steps to go from systems of record to systems of engagement to systems of intelligence, and be prepared, therefore, to effectively implement and utilize AI.
Perfect. That's a great topic for next time. All right, Peter, thank you so much. This is very helpful.
Thank you, Brian.